The Game of Life and How to Play It, the Universe version. Manifest wealth, health, love, and perfect self-expression. Original text by Florence Scovel Shinn, updated by Julie Ann Lee, Certified Core Enrichment Coach. Our vision for all who play the game and those who are about to begin. May all your dreams be divinely inspired and guided, manifesting now better than you can ever imagine, under grace and in perfect ways, of course, with love and gratitude, Julie. Why the Universe version? I love the game of life and how to play it. Thank you, Florence Scovel Shinn, for writing it. My rewording of Flossie's original book, written in 1925, is in gratitude to her. It is my hope that this universe language version lands with the love that it is intended with, and that it helps her magnificent wisdom reach and empower even more people than it already has. Simply put, her philosophy teaches that we can have all that we desire. We just have to ask for it and prepare for it in the absolute belief that what we want is already ours. As a spiritually based core enrichment coach, I have helped many clients create their dreams for their relationships, finances, and careers by helping them align with self-love, security, and faith instead of fear. The practicing of these teachings has also helped return me to self-love and security and faith, creating a purpose-filled life that I truly love. These spiritual laws really do work, if you work them. The only reason I'm updating Flossie's original version is to make the spiritual principles instead of religion the focal point. I was inspired to edit the book in this way, as this is one of the first books I ask a new client to read. Sometimes a client will have religious triggers, and I find myself presenting the book by saying, now this was written in a different time, and there are a lot of religious language and references, so please just replace any trigger words with the universe or spirit or whatever feels good to you. And for my female clients, I would have to add in, and it is written in the male pronoun, so please replace he with she or we. So in my effort to meet my clients' needs and also expand this amazing book's reach, I have adapted most of the religious language and references and replaced them with the universe. I have also put a summary of the steps to get into action with, as there are a lot of suggestions and so much direction given throughout each chapter of the original text, but not an overall how to put it all into action. I also edited the male pronouns out to make it inclusive to both men and women. The bulk of the book is as it is written back in 1925. I left most of the examples as they were because they stand the test of time, and I wanted to maintain Flossie's syntax and writing style, because she's awesome. I really hope you enjoy this audiobook and that you are able to run with what is put forth here to create the beautiful life that you deserve and the universe wants you to have. With love and gratitude, Julian. About Florence Scovel Shinn, 1871 to 1940. Wow, what a woman. She was so ahead of her time. Florence Scovel Shinn was born on September 24, 1871 in Camden, New Jersey, to Emily Hopkinson and Alden Scovel. She had an older sister and a younger brother. Flossie, as she was also known, was an artist, an author, and a metaphysics teacher in New York in the early part of the 20th century. Her books are amazing and groundbreaking, not only in her times, but still today. They are full of wisdom and have inspired thousands of people for many decades. She was an extraordinary teacher of the power of thoughts, teaching that life is a game, and in order to play it well, we must understand the universal laws that govern it. She showed her students and readers how to win at health, prosperity, love, and happiness by mastering the game, using real-life stories to illustrate how positive attitudes and affirmations make one succeed in life by being able to control life's conditions and release abundance through the knowledge of spiritual law. In 1925, unable to find a publisher for her work, Florence decided to publish her own first book herself, The Game of Life and How to Play It. Chapter 1. The Game. Most people consider life a battle, but it is not a battle. It is a game. It is a game, however, which cannot be played successfully without the knowledge of spiritual law. that it is a great game of giving and receiving, that whatever we send out in word or action will return to us. What we give, we will receive. If we give hate, we will receive hate. If we give love, we will receive love. If we give criticism, we will receive criticism. If we lie, we will be lied to. If we cheat, we will be cheated. We are taught also that the imagining faculty plays a leading part in the game of life. What we imagine in our mind sooner or later externalizes in our affairs. I know of a man who feared a certain disease. It was a very rare disease and difficult to get, but he pictured it continually and read about it until it manifested in his body, and he died, the victim of a distorted imagination. So we see, to play successfully the game of life, we must train the imaging faculty. A person with an imaging faculty, trained to image only good, brings into their life every righteous desire of their heart. Health, wealth, love, friends, perfect self-expression, their highest ideals. The imagination is being called the scissors of the mind, and it's ever cutting by day the pictures we see there, and sooner or later we meet our own creations in our outer world. To train the imagination successfully, we must understand the workings of our mind. The Greeks said, know thyself. There are 3 departments of the mind: the subconscious, conscious, and superconscious. The subconscious is simply power without direction. It is like steam or electricity, and it does what it is directed to do. It has no power of induction. Whatever we feel deeply or image clearly is impressed upon the subconscious mind and carried out in minutest detail. For example, a woman I know, when a child, always made believe she was a widow. She dressed up in black clothes and wore a long black veil, and people thought she was very clever and amusing. She grew up and married a man with whom she was deeply in love. In a short time, he died, and she wore black and a sweeping veil for many years. The picture of herself as a widow was impressed upon the subconscious mind, and in due time worked itself out, regardless of the havoc it created. The conscious mind has been called mortal or carnal mind. It is the human mind and sees life as it appears to be. It sees death, disaster, sickness, poverty, and limitation of every kind, and it impresses the subconscious. The superconscious mind is the universal mind within each of us, and it is a realm of perfect ideas. In it is the perfect pattern, spoken of by Plato, the divine design, for there is a divine design for each person. This is a place that you are to fill and no one else can fill, something you are to do which no one else can do. There is a perfect picture of this in the superconscious mind. It usually flashes across the conscious as an unattainable idea, something too good to be true. In reality, it is our true destiny or destination, flashed to us from the infinite intelligence which is within ourselves. Many people, however, are in ignorance of their true destinies and are striving for things and situations which do not belong to them and would only bring failure and dissatisfaction if attained. For example, a woman came to me and asked me to speak the word that she would marry a certain man with whom she was very much in love. She called him A.B. I replied that this would be a violation of spiritual law, but that I would speak of the word for the right man, the divine selection, the man who belonged to her by divine right. I added, if A.B. is the right man, you can't lose him, and if he isn't, you will receive his equivalent. She saw A.B. frequently, but no headway was made in their friendship. One evening she called and said, do you know, for the last week, A.B. hasn't seemed so wonderful to me? I replied, maybe he's not the divine selection. Another man might be the right one. Soon after that, she met another man who fell in love with her at once, and who said she was his ideal. In fact, He said all the things that she had always wished AB would say to her. She remarked, "It was quite uncanny." She soon returned his love and lost all interest in AB. This shows the law of substitution. A right idea was substituted for a wrong one. Therefore, there was no loss or sacrifice involved. Seeking the universe's will over our own is where our true fulfillment lies. The universe is the realm of right ideas, or the divine pattern, and our words play a leading part in the game of life. What we put out there absolutely comes back to us, as our words have power. Many people have brought disaster into their lives through idle words. For example, a woman once asked me why her life was now one of poverty and limitation. Formerly she had had a home, was surrounded by beautiful things, and had often tired of the management of her home, and had said repeatedly, "I'm sick and tired of things. I wish I lived in a trunk." And she added, "Today, I am living in that trunk." She had spoken herself into a trunk. The subconscious mind has no sense of humor, and people often joke themselves into unhappy experiences. Another example, a woman who had a great deal of money joked continually about getting ready for the poorhouse. In a few years, she was almost destitute, having oppressed the subconscious mind with a picture of lack and limitation. Fortunately, the law works both ways, and a situation of lack may be changed to one of plenty. For example, a woman came to me one hot summer's day for a treatment for prosperity. She was worn out, dejected, and discouraged. She said she had possessed just $8 in the world. I said, "Good, we'll bless the $8 and multiply them as Jesus Christ multiplied the loaves and fishes. For he taught that every man had the power to bless and to multiply, to heal and to prosper." She said, "What shall I do next?" I replied, "Follow intuition. Have you a hunch to do anything or go anywhere?" Intuition means in-tuition, or to be taught from within. It is our unerring guide, and I will deal more fully with its law in a following chapter. The woman replied, "I don't know. I seem to have a hunch to go home. I've just enough money for the fare." Her home was in a distant city and was one of lack and limitation, and the reasoning mind, or intellect, would have said, "Stay in New York and get work and make some money." I replied, "Then go home. Never violate a hunch." I spoke the following words for her: "Infinite Spirit, open the way for great abundance, for she is an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to her by divine right." I told her to repeat it continually also. She left for home immediately. In calling on a woman one day, she linked up with an old friend of her family. Through this friend, she received thousands of dollars in a most miraculous way. She had said to me often, "Tell people about the woman who came to you with $8 and a hunch." There is always plenty on our pathway, but it can only be brought into manifestation through desire, faith, or the spoken word. We have free will, and the affirming universe is always ready to respond to us. All that is required is that we make the first move and ask. Infinite intelligence, the universe is ever ready to carry out our smallest or greatest demands. Every desire, uttered or unexpressed, is a demand. We are often startled by having a wish suddenly fulfilled. For example, one Easter, having seen many beautiful rose trees in the florist's windows, I wished I would receive one, and for an instant saw it mentally being carried to the door. Easter came, and with it, a beautiful rose tree. I thanked my friend the following day and told her it was just what I had wanted. She replied, "I didn't send you a rose tree. I sent you lilies." The man had mixed the order and sent me a rose tree simply because I had started the law in action, and I had to have a rose tree. Nothing stands between us and our highest ideals and every desire of our heart, but doubt and fear. When we can wish without worrying, every desire will be instantly fulfilled. I will explain more fully in the following chapter the scientific reason for this and how fear must be erased from the consciousness. It is our only enemy. Fear of lack, fear of failure, fear of sickness, fear of loss, and a feeling of insecurity on some plane. Our job is to substitute faith for fear is only inverted faith. It is faith in the negative instead of good. The object of the game of life is to clearly see one's good and to obliterate all mental pictures of fear. This must be done by impressing the subconscious mind with a realization of good. A very brilliant man who has attained great success told me he had suddenly erased all fear from his consciousness by reading a sign which hung in a room. He saw it printed in large letters, this statement: "Why worry? It will probably never happen." These words were indelibly stamped upon his subconscious mind, and he has now a firm conviction that only good can come into his life. Therefore, only good can manifest. In the following chapter, I will deal with the different methods of impressing the subconscious mind. It is our faithful servant, but one must be careful to give it right orders. We have ever a silent listener at our side, our subconscious mind. Every thought, every word is impressed upon it and carried out in amazing detail. It is like a singer making a record on the sensitive disc of the phonographic plate. Every note and tone of the singer's voice is registered. If we cough or hesitate, it is registered also. So let us break all the old bad records in the subconscious mind, the records of our lives, which we do not wish to keep, and make new and beautiful ones. Speak these words aloud with power and conviction. I now smash and demolish, by my spoken word, every untrue record in my subconscious mind. They shall return to the dust heap of their native nothingness, for they came from my own vain imaginings. I now make my perfect records through the universe within, the records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. This is the square of life, the game completed. In the following chapters, I will show how we can change our conditions by changing our words. Any of us who does not know the power of the word is behind the times. Chapter 2. The Law of Prosperity. One of the greatest messages given to the race through spiritual teachings is that the universe is our supply and that we can release, through our spoken word, all that belongs to us by divine right. We must, however, have perfect faith in our spoken word. We know now that words and thoughts are a tremendous vibratory force, ever molding our body and affairs. A woman came to me in great distress and said she was to be sued on the 15th of the month for $3,000. She knew no way of getting the money and was in despair. I told her the universe was her supply and that there is a supply for every demand. So I spoke the word. I gave thanks that the woman would receive $3,000 at the right time, in the right way. I told her that she must have perfect faith and act her perfect faith. The 15th came, but no money had materialized. She called me on the phone and asked what was she to do. I replied, "It is Saturday, so they won't sue you today. Your part is to act rich, thereby showing perfect faith that you will receive it by Monday." She asked me to lunch with her to keep up her courage. When I joined her at a restaurant, I said, "This is no time to economize. Order an expensive luncheon. Act as if you have already received the $3,000. All things that you ask for in prayer, believing you shall receive, you must act as if you have already received." The next morning she called me on the phone and asked me to stay with her during the day. I said, "No, you are divinely protected and the universe is never too late." In the evening she called again, greatly excited, and said, "Wow, a miracle has happened. I was sitting in my room this morning when the doorbell rang. I said to my housekeeper, 'Don't let anyone in.' The housekeeper, however, looked out the window and said, 'It's your cousin with the long white beard.' So I said, 'Call him back. I would like to see him.' He was just turning the corner when he heard the housekeeper's voice, and he came back. He talked for about an hour, and just as he was leaving, he said, 'Oh, by the way, how are your finances?' I told him I needed the money, and he said, 'Why, I will give you $3,000 the first of the month.' I didn't like to tell him I was going to be sued. 'What shall I do? I won't receive it till the first of the month, and I must have it tomorrow,' I said. 'I'll keep on treating.' I said, 'Spirit is never too late. I give thanks that she has received the money on the invisible plane and that it manifests on time.' The next morning her cousin called her up and said, 'Come to my office this morning, and I will give you the money.' That afternoon, she had $3,000 to her credit in the bank and wrote checks as rapidly as her excitement would permit. If one asks for success and prepares for failure, they will get the situation they have prepared for. For example, a man came to me asking to speak the word that a certain debt would be wiped out. I found he spent his time planning what he would say to the man when he did not pay his bill, thereby neutralizing my words. He should have seen himself paying the debt. We must prepare for the thing we have asked for, even when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight. For example, a woman found it necessary to look for an apartment during the year when there was a great shortage of apartments in New York. It was considered almost an impossibility, and her friends were sorry for her and said, "Isn't it too bad you'll have to store your furniture and live in a hotel?" She replied, "You needn't feel sorry for me. I'm a superwoman, and I'll get an apartment." She spoke the words. Infinite Spirit opened the way for the right apartment. She knew there was a supply for every demand, and that she was unconditioned, working on the spiritual plane, that one with the universe is a majority. She had contemplated buying new blankets when the tempter, the adverse thought or reasoning mind, suggested, "Don't buy the blankets. Perhaps, after all, you won't get an apartment and you'll have no use for them." She promptly replied to herself, "I'll dig my ditches by buying the blankets." So she prepared for the apartment, acted as though she already had it. She found one in a miraculous way, and it was given to her although there were over 200 other applicants. The blankets showed active faith. Getting into the spiritual swing of things is no easy matter for the average person. The adverse thoughts of doubt and fear surge from the subconscious. They are the army of the aliens, which must be put to flight. This explains why it is so often darkest before the dawn. A big demonstration is usually preceded by tormenting thoughts. Having made a statement of high spiritual truth, one challenges the old beliefs in the subconscious, and error is exposed to be put out. This is the time when one must make their affirmations of truth repeatedly and rejoice and give thanks that they have already received. Before you call, I shall answer. This means that every good and perfect gift is already ours, awaiting our recognition. We can only receive what we see ourselves receiving. The children of Israel were told that they could have all the land they could see. This is true of every person. We only have the land that is within our own mental vision. Every great work, every big accomplishment has been brought into manifestation through holding to the vision, and often just before the big achievement comes apparent failure and discouragement. The children of Israel, when they reached the promised land, were afraid to go in, for they said it was filled with giants who made them feel like grasshoppers. And then we saw the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. This is almost every person's experience. However, the one who knows spiritual law is undisturbed by appearance and rejoices while they wait. That is, they hold to their vision and give thanks that the end is already accomplished. They have received. Jesus Christ gave a wonderful example of this. He said to his disciples, "Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh the harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are ripe already to harvest." His clear vision pierced the world of matter, and he saw clearly the fourth dimensional world, things as they really are, perfect and complete in divine mind. So we must hold ever the vision of our journey's end and demand the manifestation of that which we have already received. It may be our perfect health, love, supply, self-expression, home, or friends. They are all finished and perfect ideas registered in divine mind, our own superconscious mind, and must come through us, not to us. For example, a man came to me asking for treatments for success. It was imperative that he raise within a certain time limit $50,000 for his business. This time limit was almost up. When he came to me in despair, no one wanted to invest in his enterprise, and the bank had flatly refused a loan. I replied, "I suppose you lost your temper while at the bank, therefore your power. You can control any situation if you first control yourself. Go back to the bank," I added, "and I will treat." My treatment was, you are identified in love with the spirit of everyone connected with the bank Let the divine idea come out of this situation. He replied, Woman, you are talking about an impossibility. Tomorrow is Saturday, the bank closes at 12, and my train won't get me there until 10, and the time limit is up tomorrow. And anyway, they won't do it. It's too late. I replied, The universe doesn't need any time and is never too late. With the universe, all things are possible. I added, I don't know anything about business, but I know all about the universe. He replied, It all sounds fine when I sit here listening to you, but when I go out, it's terrible. He lived in a distant city, and I did not hear from him for a week. Then came a letter. It read, You were right. I raised the money and will never again doubt the truth of all that you told me. I saw him a few weeks later, and I said, What happened? You evidently had plenty of time, after all. He replied, My train was late, and I got there just 15 minutes to 12. I walked into the bank quietly and said, I have come for the loan, and they gave it to me without a question. It was the last 15 minutes of the time allotted to him, and Infinite Spirit was not too late. In this instance, the man could never have demonstrated alone. He needed someone to help him hold to the vision. This is what one person can do for another. One gets too close to their own affairs and becomes doubtful and fearful. The friend or healer sees clearly the success, health, or prosperity and never wavers because they are not close to the situation. It is much easier to demonstrate for someone else than for oneself, so a person should not hesitate to ask for help if they feel themselves wavering. A keen observer of life once said, No one can fail if some one person sees them as successful. Such is the power of the vision. And many a great person owed their success to a wife, husband, brother, sister, or a friend who believed in them and held without wavering to the perfect pattern. Chapter 3. The Power of the Word. A person knowing the power of their word becomes very careful of their conversation. They have only to watch the reaction of their words to know that they do not return void. Through our spoken word, we are continually making laws for ourselves. I knew a man who said, I always miss a taxi. It invariably pulls out just as I arrive. His daughter said, I always catch a taxi. It's sure to come just as I get there. This occurred for years. Each had made a separate law for themselves, one of failure, one of success. This is the psychology of superstitions. The horseshoe or rabbit's foot contains no power, but our words and belief that it will bring good luck creates expectancy in the subconscious mind and attracts a lucky situation. I find, however, this will not work when we have advanced spiritually and know a higher law. One cannot turn back and must put away graven images. For example, 2 men in my class had had great success in business for several months, when suddenly everything went downhill. We tried to analyze the situation, and I found instead of making their affirmations and looking to the universe for success and prosperity, they had each brought a lucky monkey. I said, Oh, I see, you have been trusting in the lucky monkeys instead of the universe. Put away the lucky monkeys and call on the law of forgiveness, for we have the power to forgive or neutralize our mistakes. They decided to get rid of the lucky monkeys, and all went well again. This does not mean, however, that one should throw away every lucky ornament or horseshoe about the house, but they must recognize that the power back of it is the one and only power, the universe, and that the object simply gives them a feeling of expectancy. I was with a friend one day who was in deep despair. In crossing the street, she picked up a horseshoe. Immediately, she was filled with joy and hope. She said the universe has sent her the horseshoe in order to keep up her courage. It was indeed at that moment about the only thing that could have registered in her consciousness. Her hope became faith, and she ultimately made a wonderful demonstration. I wish to make the point clear that men previously mentioned were depending on the monkeys alone, while this woman recognized the power behind the horseshoe. I know in my own case, it took a long while to get out of the belief that a certain thing brought disappointment. If the thing happened, disappointment invariably followed. I found the only way I could make a change in the subconscious was by asserting, there are not 2 powers, there is only one power, the universe. Therefore, there are no disappointments, and this thing means a happy surprise. I noticed a change at once, and happy surprises commenced coming my way. I have a friend who said nothing could induce her to walk under a ladder. I said if you are afraid, you are giving into a belief in two powers, good and bad, instead of just one. As the universe is absolute, there can be no opposing power, unless we make the false of fear for ourselves. To show you believe in only one power, the universe, and that there is no power or reality in fear, walk under the ladder next you see. Soon after, she went to her bank. She wished to open her box in the safe deposit vault, and there stood a ladder on her pathway. It was impossible to reach the box without passing under the ladder. She quailed with fear and turned back. She could not face the lion on her pathway. However, when she reached the street, my words rang in her ears, and she decided to return and walk under it. It was a big moment in her life, for ladders had held her in bondage for years. She retraced her steps to the vault, and the ladder was no longer there. This so often happens. If one is willing to do a thing they are afraid to do, they do not have to. It is the law of nonresistance, which is so little understood. Someone has said that courage contains genius and magic. Face a situation fearlessly, and there is no situation to face. It falls away on its own weight. The explanation is that fear attracted the ladder on the woman's pathway, and fearlessness removed it. Thus the invisible forces are ever working for us, who are always pulling the strings ourselves, though we do not know it. Owing to the vibratory power of our words, whatever we voice, we begin to attract. People who continually speak of disease invariably attract it. After we know the truth, we cannot be too careful of our words. For example, I have a friend who often says on the phone, "Do come to see me and have an old-fashioned chat." This old-fashioned chat means an hour of about 500 to 1,000 destructive words, the principal topics being loss, lack, failure, and sickness. I reply, "No, I thank you. I've had enough old-fashioned chats in my life. They are too expensive, but I'll be glad to have a new-fashioned chat and talk about what we want, not what we don't want." There is an old saying that we only dare use our words for three purposes: to heal, bless, and prosper. What we say of others will be said of us, and what we wish for another, we are wishing for ourselves. Curses like chickens come home to roost. If we wish someone bad luck, we are sure to attract bad luck ourselves. If we wish to aid someone to success, we are wishing and aiding ourselves to success. The body may be renewed and transformed through the spoken word, and clear vision and disease be completely wiped out of the consciousness. The metaphysician knows that all disease has a mental correspondence, and in order to heal the body, one must first heal the soul. The soul is the subconscious mind, and it must be saved from wrong thinking. The subconscious mind or soul must be restored with the right ideas, and the mystical marriage is the marriage of the soul and the spirit, or the subconscious and the superconscious mind. They must be one. When the subconscious is flooded with the perfect ideas of the superconscious, the universe and ourselves are one with the realm of perfect ideas. We are made in the universe's likeness and image, imagination, and are given power and dominion over all created things, our mind, body, and affairs. It is safe to say that all sickness and unhappiness come from the violation of the law of love. For example, a woman I know had for years an appearance of a terrible skin disease. The doctors told her it was incurable, and she was in despair. She was on the stage, and she feared she would soon have to give up her profession, and she had no other means of support. She, however, procured a good engagement, and on opening night made a great hit. She received flattering notices from the critics and was joyful and elated. The next day she received a notice of dismissal. A man in the cast had been jealous of her success and had caused her to be sent away. She felt hatred and resentment taking complete possession of her, and she cried out, "Oh, universe, don't let me hate that man." That night she worked for hours in the silence. She said, "I soon came into a very deep silence. I seemed to be at peace with myself, with the man, and with the whole world. I continued this for 2 following nights, and on the 3rd day I found I was healed completely of my skin disease." In asking for love or goodwill, she had fulfilled the law, for love is the fulfilling of the law. and the disease, which came from subconscious resentment, was wiped out. Continual criticism produces rheumatism, as critical, inharmonious thoughts cause unnatural deposits in the blood, which settle in the joints. False growths are caused by jealousy, hatred, unforgiveness, fear. Every disease is caused by a mind not at ease. I said once in my class, there is no use asking anyone, what's the matter with you? We might just as well say, who's the matter with you? Unforgiveness is the most prolific cause of disease. It will harden the arteries or liver and affect the eyesight. In its train are endless ills. I called on a woman one day who said she was ill from having eaten a poisoned oyster. I replied, oh no, the oyster was harmless. You poisoned the oyster. Who's the matter with you? She answered, oh, about 19 people. She had quarreled with 19 people and had become so inharmonious that she had attracted the wrong oyster. Any inharmony on the external indicates there is mental inharmony. As the within, so the without. Our only enemies are within ourselves, and a person's foes shall be their own household. Personality is one of the last enemies to be overcome. As this planet is taking its initiation in love, the enlightened person endeavors to perfect themselves upon their neighbor. Their work is with themselves, to send out goodwill and blessings to every person, and the marvelous thing is that if one blesses a person, they have no power to harm them. For example, a man came to me asking to treat for success in business. He was selling machinery, and a rival appeared on the scene with what he proclaimed was a better machine, and my friend feared defeat. I said, first of all, we must wipe out all fear and know that the universe protects your interest and that the divine idea must come out of the situation. That is, the right machine will be sold by the right man to the right man. And I added, don't hold one critical thought towards that man. Bless him all day and be willing not to sell your machine if it isn't the divine idea. So he went to the meeting, fearless and non-resistant, and blessing the other man. He said the outcome was very remarkable. The other man's machine refused to work, and he sold his without the slightest difficulty. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which spitefully use you and persecute you. Goodwill produces a great aura of protection about the one who sends it, and no weapon that is formed against them shall prosper. In other words, love and goodwill destroy their enemies with oneself. Therefore, one has no enemies on the external. There is peace on earth for they who send goodwill to everyone. Chapter 4. The Law of Nonresistance. Nothing on earth can resist an absolutely non-resistant person. The Chinese say that the water is the most powerful element because it is perfectly non-resistant. It can wear away a rock and sweep all before it. There is an old legend that Adam and Eve ate of the Maya of the tree of illusion and saw two powers instead of one power, the universe. Therefore, fear is a false law we have made for ourselves through psychoma or soul sleep. Soul sleep means that our soul has been hypnotized by the race belief of sin, sickness, and death, which is carnal or mortal thought, and our affairs have outpictured our illusions. We have read in a preceding chapter that our soul is our subconscious mind, and whatever we feel deeply, good or bad, is outpictured by that faithful servant. Our body and affairs show forth what we have been picturing. The sick man has pictured sickness, the poor woman poverty, the rich man wealth. People often say, why does a little child attract illness when it is too young even to know what it means? I answer that children are sensitive and receptive to the thoughts of others about them, and often outpicture the fears of their parents. I heard a metaphysician once say, if you do not run your subconscious mind yourself, someone else will run it for you. Mothers often unconsciously attract illness and disaster to their children by continually holding them in thoughts of fear and watching for symptoms. For example, a friend asked a woman if her little girl had had the measles. She replied promptly, "Not yet." This implied that she was expecting the illness and therefore preparing the way for what she did not want for herself and her child. However, the person who is centered and established in right thinking, the person who sends out only goodwill to their fellows, and who is without fear, cannot be touched or influenced by the negative thoughts of others. In fact, they could then receive only good thoughts as they themselves send forth only good thoughts. Resistance is hell, for it places us in a state of torment. A metaphysician once gave me a wonderful recipe for taking every trick in the game of life. It is the pinnacle of non-resistance. He gave it in this way. At one time in my life, I blessed children, and of course, they had many names. Now I no longer bless children, but I bless events, but I give every event the same name. If I have a failure, I bless it as a success, in the name of the universe. In this we see the great law of transmutation, founded on non-resistance. Through our spoken word, every failure was transmuted into success. For example, a woman who required money and who knew the spiritual law of opulence was thrown continually in a business way with a man who made her feel very poor. He talked lack and limitation, and she commenced to catch his poverty thoughts, so she disliked him and blamed him for her failure. She knew in order to demonstrate her supply, she must first feel that she had received. A feeling of opulence must precede its manifestation. It dawned on her one day that she was resisting the situation and seeing two powers instead of one. So she blessed the man and blessed the situation as a success. She affirmed, as there is only one power, the universe, this man is here for my good and my prosperity. Just what he did not seem to be there for. Soon after that, she met through this man a woman who gave her for a service rendered several $1,000s, and the man moved to a distant city and faded harmoniously from her life. Make the statement, every person is a golden link in the chain of my good, for all people are the universe in manifestation, awaiting the opportunity given by us, ourselves, to serve the divine plan of our life. Bless your enemy, and you rob them of their ammunition. Their arrows will be transmuted into blessings. This law is true of nations as well as individuals. Bless a nation, send love and goodwill to every inhabitant, and it is robbed of its power to harm. We can only get the right idea of non-resistance through spiritual understanding. My students have often said, I don't want to be a doormat. I reply, when you use non-resistance with wisdom, no one will ever be able to walk over you. Another example, one day I was impatiently awaiting an important telephone call. I resisted every call that came in and made no outgoing calls myself, reasoning that it might interfere with the one I was awaiting. Instead of saying divine ideas never conflict, the call will come at the right time, leaving it to the universe to arrange, I commenced to manage things myself. I made the battle mine, not the universe's, and remained tense and anxious. The phone did not ring for about an hour, and I glanced at it and found the receiver had been off that length of time and the phone was disconnected. My anxiety, fear, and belief in interference had brought on a total eclipse of the telephone. Realizing what I had done, I commenced blessing the situation at once. I called it a success and affirmed, I cannot lose any call that belongs to me by divine right. I am under grace and not under law. A friend rushed out to the nearest telephone to notify the company to reconnect. She entered a crowded grocery, but the proprietor left his customers and attended to the call himself. My phone was connected at once, and 2 minutes later I received a very important call, and about an hour afterward, the one I had been waiting. Once ships come in over a calm sea, so long as we resist a situation, we will have it within us. If we run away from it, it will ruin us. For example, I repeated this to a woman one day, and she replied, How true that is. I was unhappy at home. I disliked my mother, who was critical and domineering, so I ran away and was married. But I married my mother, for my husband was exactly like my mother, and I've had the same situation to face again. Agree with your adversary quickly. This means agree that the adverse situation is good. Be undisturbed by it, and it falls away on its own weight. None of these things move me is a wonderful affirmation. The inharmonious situation comes from some disharmony within ourselves. When there is in us no emotional response to an inharmonious situation, it fades away forever from our pathway. So we see our work is ever with ourselves. People have said to me, give treatments to change my husband or my brother. I reply, no, I will give treatments to change you. When you change, your husband and your brother will change. One of my students was in the habit of lying. I told her it was a failure method, and if she lied, she would be lied to. She replied, I don't care. I can't possibly get along without lying. One day she was speaking on the phone to a man with whom she was very much in love. She turned to me and said, I don't trust him. I know he's lying to me. I replied, well, you lie in yourself. So someone has to lie to you, and you will be sure it will be just the person you want the truth from. Some time after that, I saw her and she said, I'm cured of lying. I questioned, what cured you? She replied, I have been living with a woman who lied worse than I did. One is often cured of their faults by seeing them in others. Life is a mirror, and we find ourselves reflected in our associates. Living in the past is a failure method and a violation of spiritual law. The robbers of time are the past and the future. We should bless the past and forget it if it keeps us in bondage, and bless the future knowing it has in store for us endless joys, but live fully in the now. For example, a woman came to me complaining that she had no money with which to buy Christmas gifts. She said, last year was so different. I had plenty of money and gave lovely presents, and this year I have scarcely a cent. I replied, you will never demonstrate money while you are pathetic and live in the past. Live fully in the now and get ready to give Christmas presents. Dig your ditches and the money will come. She exclaimed, I know what to do. I will buy some tinsel twine, Christmas seals and wrapping paper. I replied, do that, and the presents will come and stick themselves to the Christmas seals. This too was showing financial fearlessness and faith in the universe, as the reasoning mind said, keep every cent you have, as you are not sure you will get any more. She brought the seals, paper and twine, and a few days before Christmas received a gift of several $100s. Buying the seals and twine had impressed the subconscious with expectancy and opened the way for the manifestation of the money. She purchased all the presents in plenty of time. We must live in the suspended moment and be spiritually alert, ever awaiting our leads, taking advantage of every opportunity. One day I said continually, silently, Infinite Spirit, don't let me miss a trick. And something very important was told to me that evening. It is most necessary to begin the day with right words. Make an affirmation immediately upon awakening. For example, the universe's will be done this day. Today is a day of completion. I give thanks for this perfect day. Miracle shall follow miracle, and wonders shall never cease. Make this a habit, and one will see wonders and miracles come into their life. One morning I picked up a book and read, Look with wonder at which is before you. It seemed to be my message for the day, so I repeated again and again. Look with wonder at that which is before you. At about noon, a large sum of money was given me, which I had been desiring for a certain purpose. In a following chapter, I will give affirmations that I have found most effective. However, one should never use an affirmation unless it is absolutely satisfying, convincing to their own consciousness, and often our affirmation is changed to suit different people. For example, the following has brought success to many. I have a wonderful work in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. I gave this first 2 lines to one of my students, and she added the last 2. It made a most powerful statement, as there should always be perfect payment for perfect service, and a rhyme sinks easily into the subconscious. She went about singing it aloud and soon did receive wonderful work in a wonderful way, and gave wonderful service for wonderful pay. Another student, a businessman, took it and changed the word work to business. He repeated, I have a wonderful business in a wonderful way, and I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. That afternoon he made a $41,000 deal, though there had been no activity in his affairs for months. Every affirmation must be carefully worded and completely cover the ground. For example, I knew a woman who was in great need and made a demand for work. She received a great deal of work, but was never paid anything. She now knows to add wonderful service for wonderful pay. It is our divine right to have plenty, more than enough. This is the universe's idea for us. And when we break down the barriers of lack in our own consciousness, the golden age will be ours, and every righteous desire of our hearts fulfilled. Chapter 5. The Law of Karma and the Law of Forgiveness. We receive only that which we give. The game of life is a game of boomerangs. Our thoughts, deeds, and words return to us sooner or later with astounding accuracy. This is the law of karma, which is Sanskrit for come back. For example, a friend told me this story of herself illustrating the law. She said, I make all my karma on my aunt. Whatever I say to her, someone says to me. I am often irritable at home, and one day said to my aunt, who was talking to me during dinner, no more talk, I wish to eat in peace. The following day, I was lunching with a woman with whom I wished to make a great impression. I was talking animatedly when she said, no more talk, I wish to eat in peace. My friend is in high consciousness, so her karma returns much more quickly than to one on the mental plane. The more we know, the more we are responsible for. And a person with a knowledge of spiritual law, which we do not practice, suffers greatly in consequence. It is the law which takes vengeance, not the universe. The universe sees us as perfect, created in its own image, and given power and dominion. The perfect idea of us is registered in the universal mind, awaiting our recognition. For we can only be what we see ourselves to be, and only attain what we see ourselves attaining. Nothing ever happens without an onlooker, is an ancient saying. We see first our failure or success, our joy or our sorrow, before it swings into visibility from the scene set in our own imagination. We have observed this in mother picturing disease for her child, or a woman seeing success for her husband. So we see freedom from all unhappy conditions comes through knowledge, a knowledge of spiritual law. Obedience precedes authority, and the law obeys us when we obey the law. The law of electricity must be obeyed before it becomes our servant. When handled ignorantly, it becomes a deadly foe. So with the laws of our mind. For example, a woman with a strong personal will wished she owned a house which belonged to an acquaintance, and she often made mental pictures of herself living in the house. In the course of time, the man died, and she moved into the house. Several years afterwards, coming into the knowledge of spiritual law, she said to me, do you think I had anything to do with that man's death? I replied, yes. Your desire was so strong, everything made way for it. But you paid your karmic debt. Your husband, whom you loved devotedly, died soon after, and the house was a white elephant on your hands for years. The original owner, however, could not have been affected by her thoughts had he been positive in the truth, nor her husband, but they were both under karmic law. The woman should have said, feeling the great desire for the house, Universe, give me the right house, equally as charming as this, the house which is mine by divine right. The divine selection would have given perfect satisfaction and brought good to all. The divine pattern is the only safe pattern to work by. Desire is a tremendous force and must be directed in the right channels, or chaos ensues. In demonstrating, the most important step is the first step, to ask in the right way. We should always demand only that which is ours by divine right. To go back to the illustration, had the woman taken this attitude, if this house I desire is mine, I cannot lose it. If it is not, give me its equivalent. The man might have decided to move out harmoniously, had it been the divine selection for her, or another house would have been substituted. Anything forced into manifestation through personal will is always ill-got and has ever bad success. We are advised, the universe's will be done, not mine. And the curious thing is, we always get just what we desire when we do relinquish personal will, thereby enabling the universe to work through us. For example, a woman came to me in great distress. Her daughter had determined to take a very hazardous trip, and the mother was filled with fear. She said she had used every argument, had pointed out the dangers to be encountered, and forbidden her to go, but the daughter became more and more rebellious and determined. I said to the mother, you are forcing your personal will upon your daughter, which you have no right to do, and your fear of the trip is only attracting it, for we attract what we fear. I added, let go and take your mental hands off. put it in the universe's hands, and use this statement. I put this situation in the hands of infinite love and wisdom. If this trip is in the divine plan, I bless it and no longer resist. But if it is not divinely planned, I give thanks that it is now dissolved and dissipated. A day or two after that, her daughter said to her, Mother, I've given up the trip, and the situation returned to its native nothingness. It is learning to stand still which seems so difficult for us. I have dealt more fully with this law in the chapter of non-resistance. I will give another example of sowing and reaping, which came in the most interesting way. A woman came to me saying she had received a counterfeit $20 bill given to her at the bank. She was upset, for she said, the people at the bank will never acknowledge their mistake. I replied, let us analyze the situation and find out why you attracted it. She thought a few moments and exclaimed, I know it. I sent a friend a lot of stage money, just for a joke. So the law had sent her some stage money, for it doesn't know anything about jokes. I said, now we will call on the law of forgiveness and neutralize the situation. The law of forgiveness is of most importance, for it redeems us from the curse of karmic law, and the universe within each of us is our redeemer and salvation from all inharmonious conditions. So I said, Universe, we will call on the law of forgiveness and give thanks that she is under grace and not under law, and cannot lose this $20 which is hers by divine right. Now, I said, go back to the bank and tell them fearlessly that it was given to you by their mistake. She obeyed, and to her surprise they apologized and gave her another bill, treating her almost courteously. So knowledge of the law gives us the power to rub out our mistakes. We cannot force the external to be what we are not. If we desire riches, we must be rich first in consciousness. For example, a woman came to me asking treatment for prosperity. She did not take much interest in her household affairs, and her home was in great disorder. I said to her, if you wish to be rich, you must be orderly. All people with great wealth are orderly. I added, you will never become rich with a burnt match in the pincushion. She had a good sense of humor and commenced immediately, putting her house in order. She arranged furniture, straightened out her chest of drawers, cleaned rugs, and soon made a big financial demonstration, a gift from a relative. The woman herself became made over and keeps herself keyed up financially by being ever watchful of the external and expecting prosperity, knowing the universe is her supply. Many people are in ignorance of the fact that gifts and things are investments, and that hoarding and saving invariably leads to loss. For example, I knew a man who wanted to buy a fur-lined overcoat. He and his wife went to various shops, but there was none he wanted. He said they were all too cheap-looking. At last he was shown one. The salesman said was valued at $5,000, but which the manager would sell him for $3,000 as it was late in the season. His financial possessions amounted to about $3,500. The reasoning mind would have said, you can't afford to spend nearly all you have on a coat. But he was very intuitive and never reasoned. He turned to his wife and said, if I get this coat, I'll make a ton of money. So his wife consented weakly. About a month later, he received a $30,000 commission. The coat made him feel so rich it linked him with success and prosperity. Without the coat, he would not have received the commission. It was an investment paying large dividends. If we ignore these leadings to spend or to give, the same amount of money will go in an uninteresting or unhappy way. For example, a woman told me on Thanksgiving Day she informed her family that she could not afford a Thanksgiving dinner. She had the money but decided to save it. A few days later, someone entered her room and took from the dresser the exact amount the dinner would have cost. The law always stands back of the person who spends fearlessly with wisdom. For example, one of my students was shopping with her little nephew. The child clamored for a toy, which she told him she could not afford to buy. She realized suddenly that she was seeking lack and not recognizing the universe as her supply. So she bought the toy and on her way home picked up in the street the exact amount of money she had paid for it. Our supply is inexhaustible and unfailing when fully trusted, but faith or trust must precede the demonstration. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For faith holds the vision steady, and the adverse pictures are dissolved and dissipated, and in due season we shall receive, if we believe. It is said that there is a higher law than the law of karma, and that the law transcends the law of karma. It is the law of grace or forgiveness. It is the law which frees us from the law of cause and effect, the law of consequence, under grace and not under law. We are told that on this plane we reap where we have not sown. The gifts of the universe are simply poured out upon us. This continued state of bliss awaits the person who has overcome the race or world thought. In the world thought there is tribulation, that of sin, sickness, and death. We know now, from a scientific standpoint, that death could be overcome by stamping the subconscious mind with the conviction of eternal youth and eternal life. The subconscious, being simply power without direction, carries out orders without questioning. Working under the direction of the superconscious, the universe within us, the reawakening of the body would be accomplished. We would no longer throw off our body in death. It would be transformed into the body electric, as sung by Walt Whitman. Chapter 6, Casting the Burden, Impressing the Subconscious. When we know our own powers and the workings of our mind, our great desire is to find an easy and quick way to impress the subconscious with good, for simply an intellectual knowledge of the truth will not bring results. In my own case, I found the easiest way is in the casting the burden. A metaphysician once explained it in this manner. He said, "The only thing which gives anything weight in nature is the law of gravitation, and if a boulder could be taken high above the planet, there would be no weight in that boulder." This indicates that the superconscious mind, or the universe within, is a department which fights our battles and relieves us of our burdens. We see, therefore, that we violate the law if we carry a burden, and a burden is an adverse thought or condition, and this thought or condition has its root in the subconscious. It seems almost impossible to make any headway directing the subconscious from the conscious, or reasoning mind, and the reasoning mind, the intellect, is limited in its conceptions and filled with doubts and fears. How scientific is it, then, to cast the burden upon the superconscious mind, or the universe within, when it is made light or dissolved into its native nothingness? For example, a woman in urgent need of money made light upon the universe within, the superconscious, with the statement, "I cast this burden of lack on the universe within, and I go free to have plenty." The belief in lack was her burden, and as she cast it upon the superconscious with its belief of plenty, an avalanche of supply was the result. Another example, one of my students had been given a new piano, and there was no room in her studio for it until she had moved out the old one. She was in a state of perplexity. She wanted to keep the old piano, but knew of no place to send it. She became desperate, as the new piano was about to be sent immediately, in fact, was on its way, with no place to put it. She said it came to her to repeat, "I cast this burden on the universe within, and I go free." A few moments later, her phone rang, and a woman friend asked if she might rent her old piano, and it was moved out a few minutes right before the new one arrived. I knew a woman whose burden was resentment. She said, "I cast this burden of resentment on the universe within, and I go free to be loving, harmonious, and happy." The almighty superconscious flooded the subconscious with love, and her whole life was changed. For years, resentment had held her in a state of torment and imprisoned her soul, the subconscious mind. The statement should be made over and over and over, sometimes for hours at a time, silently or audibly, with quietness but determination. I have often compared it to winding up a Victrola. We must wind ourselves up with spoken words. I have noticed in casting the burden, after a little while, one seems to see clearly. It is impossible to have clear vision while in the throes of carnal mind. Doubts and fears poison the mind, and the body and imagination runs riot, attracting disaster and disease. In steadily repeating the affirmation, "I cast this burden on the universe within and go free," the vision clears, and with it a feeling of relief, and sooner or later comes the manifestation of good, be it health, happiness, or supply. One of my students asked me once to explain the darkness before the dawn. I referred to this in a previous chapter, to the fact that often before the big demonstration, everything seems to go wrong, and deep depression clouds the consciousness. It means that out of the subconscious are rising the doubts and fears of the ages. These old derelicts of the subconscious rise to the surface to be put out. It is then that we should celebrate and give thanks that we are saved, even though we seem surrounded by the enemy, the situation of lack or disease. The student continued, "How long must one remain in the dark?" And I replied, until one can see in the dark, and casting the burden enables one to see in the dark. In order to impress the subconscious, active faith is always essential. Faith without works is dead. In these chapters, I have endeavored to bring out this point. Jesus Christ showed active faith when he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground before he gave thanks for the loaves and fishes. I will give another example showing how necessary this step is. In fact, active faith is the bridge over which we pass to the realization of our dreams. Through misunderstanding, a woman had been separated from her husband, whom she loved deeply. He refused all offers of reconciliation and would not communicate with her in any way. Coming into the knowledge of spiritual law, she denied the appearance of separation. She made this statement, "There is no separation in divine mind, therefore I cannot be separated from the love and companionship which are mine by divine right." She showed active faith by arranging a place for him at the table every day, thereby impressing upon the subconscious with a picture of his return. Over a year passed, but she never wavered, and one day he walked in. The subconscious is often impressed through music. Music has a fourth dimensional quality and releases the soul from imprisonment. It makes wonderful things seem possible and easy of accomplishment. I have a friend who uses her Victrola daily for this purpose. It puts her in perfect harmony and releases the imagination. Another woman often dances while making her affirmations. The rhythm and harmony of music and motion carry her words forth with tremendous power. The student must remember also not to despise the day of small things. Invariably before a demonstration come signs of land. Before Columbus reached America, he saw birds and twigs which showed him land was near. So it is with the demonstration, but often the student mistakes it for the demonstration itself and is disappointed. For example, a woman had spoken the word for a set of dishes. Not long afterwards, a friend gave her a dish which was old and cracked. She came to me and said, "Well, I asked for a set of dishes, and all I got was a cracked plate." I replied, "The plate was only signs of land. It shows your dishes are coming. Look upon it as birds and twigs," and not long afterwards the dishes came. Continually making believe impresses subconscious. If one makes believe they are rich and makes believe they are successful, in due time they will reap. Children are always making believe, and returning to our childlike spirit is key. For example, I know of a woman who was very poor, but no one could make her feel poor. She earned a small amount of money from rich friends who constantly reminded her of her poverty, and to be careful and save. Regardless of their warnings, she would spend all her earnings on a hat or make someone a gift and be in an enthusiastic state of her mind. Her thoughts were always centered on beautiful clothes and rings and things, but without envying others. She lived in the world of wanderers, and only riches seemed to real to her. Before long she married a rich man, and the rings and things became visible. I do not know whether the man was a divine selection, but opulence had to manifest in her life, and she had imaged only opulence. There is no peace or happiness for us until we have erased all fear from the subconscious. Fear is misdirected energy and must be redirected or transmuted into faith. I am asked so often by my students, "How can I get rid of fear?" I reply, by walking up to the thing you are afraid of. The lion takes its fearness from your fear. Walk up to the lion and it will disappear. Run away and it runs after you. I have shown it in previous chapters how the lion of lack disappeared when the individual spent money fearlessly, showing faith that the universe was their supply and therefore unfailing. Many of my students have come out of the bondage of poverty and are now bountifully supplied. Through losing all fear of letting money go out, the subconscious is impressed with the truth that the universe is the giver and the gift. Therefore, as one is with the giver, they are one with the gift. A splendid statement is, "I now thank the universe, the giver, for the universe, the gift." We have long separated ourselves from our good and our supply through thoughts of separation and lack, that sometimes it takes dynamite to dislodge these false ideas from the subconscious, and the dynamite is a big situation. We see in the foregoing illustration how the individual was freed from their bondage by showing fearlessness. We should watch ourselves hourly to detect if our motive for action is fear or faith. Perhaps one's fear is of personality. Then do not avoid the people feared. Be willing to meet them cheerfully, and they will either prove golden links in the chain of one's good or disappear harmoniously from one's pathway. Perhaps one's fear is of disease or germs. Then one should be fearless and undisturbed in a germ-laden situation, and they would be immune. One can only contract germs while vibrating at the same rate as the germ. and fear drags us down to the level of the germ. Of course, the disease-laden germ is the product of carnal mind, as all thought must objectify. Germs do not exist in the superconscious or universal mind, therefore are the product of our vain imagination. In the twinkling of an eye, our release will come when we realize there is no power in fear. The material world will fade away, and the fourth dimensional world, the world of the wondrous, will swing into manifestation. Chapter 7. Love. Every person on this planet is taking their initiation in love. Upensky states, in Terratim Organum, that love is a cosmic phenomenon and opens to us the fourth dimensional world, the world of the wondrous. Real love is selfless and free from fear. It pours itself upon the object of its affection without demanding any return. Its joy is in the joy of giving. Love is the universe in manifestation and the strongest magnetic force in the universe. Pure, unselfish love draws to itself its own. It does not need to seek or demand. Scarcely anyone has the faintest conception of real love. We are often selfish, tyrannical, or fearful in our affections, thereby losing the thing we love. Jealousy is the worst enemy of love, for the imagination runs riot, seeing the loved one attracted to another, and invariably these fears objectify if they are not neutralized. For example, a woman came to me in deep distress. The man she loved had left her for another woman, and she said he never intended to marry her. She was torn with jealousy and resentment, and said she hoped he would suffer as he would made her suffer, and added, "How could he leave me when I loved him so much?" I replied, "You are not loving that man. You are hating him," and added, "You can never receive what you have never given. Give a perfect love, and you will receive a perfect love. Perfect yourself on this man. Give him a perfect, unselfish love, demanding nothing in return. Do not criticize or condemn, and bless him wherever he is." She replied, "No, I won't bless him, unless I know where he is," she said. "Well," I said, "that is not real love. When you send out real love will return to you, either from this man or his equivalent. For if this man is not the divine selection, you will not want him. As you are one with the universe, you are one with the love which belongs to you by divine right." Several months passed and matters remained about the same, but she was working conscientiously with herself. I said, "When you are no longer disturbed by his cruelty, he will cease to be cruel, as you are attracting it through your own emotions." Then I told her of a brotherhood in India, who never said good morning to each other. They used these words, "I salute the divinity in you." They saluted the divinity in every person and in the wild animals in the jungle, and they were never harmed, for they saw only the universe in every living thing. I said, "Salute the divinity in this man and say, 'I see your divine self only. I see you as the universe sees you, perfect, whole, and complete." She found she was becoming more poised and gradually losing her resentment. He was a captain, and she always called him the Cap. One day she said suddenly, "Universe, bless the Cap wherever he is." I replied, "Now that is real love. And when you have become a complete circle and are no longer disturbed by the situation, you will have his love or attract its equivalent." I was moving at this time, so I was out of touch with her for a few weeks, when one morning I received a message saying, "We are married." At the earliest opportunity I called her. My first words were, "What happened?" "Oh," she exclaimed, "a miracle." One day I woke up and all suffering had ceased. I saw him that evening and he asked me to marry him. We were married in about a week, and I had never seen a more devoted man. There is an old saying, "No person is your enemy, no person is your friend, every person is your teacher." So one should become impersonal and learn what each person has to teach them, and soon we would learn our lessons and be free. The woman's lover was teaching her selfless love, which every person sooner or later must learn. Suffering is not necessary for our development. It is the result of the violation of spiritual law, but few of us seem able to rouse ourselves from our soul sleep without it. When we are happy, we usually become selfish, and automatically the law of karma is set in action. We often suffer loss through lack of appreciation. I knew a woman who had a very nice husband, but she said often, "I don't care anything about being married, but that is nothing against my husband. I'm simply not interested in married life." She had other interests and scarcely remembered she had a husband. She only thought of him when she saw him. One day her husband told her he was in love with another woman and left. She came to me in distress and resentment. I replied, "It is exactly what you spoke the word for. You said you didn't care anything about being married, so the subconscious worked to get you unmarried." She said, "Oh, yes, I see. People get what they want and then feel very much hurt." She soon became in perfect harmony with the situation and knew they were both much happier apart. When we become indifferent or critical and cease to be an inspiration to our partner, they miss the stimulus of their early relationship and become restless and unhappy. A man came to me dejected, miserable, and poor. His wife was interested in the science of numbers and had had him read by it. It seems the report was not very favourable, for he said, "My wife says I'll never amount to anything because I am a 2. I replied, "I don't care what your number is. You are a perfect idea in divine mind, and we will demand the success and prosperity which are already planned for you by that infinite intelligence." Within a few weeks, he had a very fine position, and a year or two later, he achieved a brilliant success as a writer. No person is a success in business unless they love their work. The picture the artists paint for love or their art is their greatest work. No person can attract money if they despise it. Many people are kept in poverty by saying, "Money means nothing to me, and I have a contempt for people who have it." This is the reason so many artists are poor. Their contempt for money separates them from it. I remember hearing one artist say of another, "He's no good as an artist. He has money in the bank." This attitude of mind, of course, separates us from our supply. We must be in harmony with the thing in order to attract it. Money is the universe in manifestation as freedom from want and limitation, but it must be always kept in circulation and put to right use. Hoarding and saving react with grim vengeance. This does not mean we should not have houses and lots, stocks and bonds, for you are overflowing with abundance. It means we should not hoard even the principal. If an occasion arises when money is necessary, in letting it go out fearlessly and cheerfully, we open the way for more to come in, for the universe is our unfailing and inexhaustible supply. This is the spiritual attitude towards money, and the great bank of the universe never fails. We see an example of hoarding in the film production of Greed. The woman won $50,000 in a lottery, but would not spend it. She hoarded and saved, let her husband suffer and starve, and eventually she scrubbed floors for a living. She loved the money itself and put it above everything, and one night she was murdered and the money taken from her. This is an example of where the love of money is the root of all evil. Money in itself is good and beneficial, but used for destructive purposes, hoarded and saved or considered more important than love, brings disease and disaster and the loss of the money itself. Follow the path of love and all things are added, for the universe is love, and the universe is our supply. Follow the path of selfishness and greed, and the supply vanishes, or we are separated from it. For example, I knew the case of a very rich woman who hoarded her income. She rarely gave anything away, but brought things for herself. She was very fond of necklaces, and a friend once asked her how many she possessed. She replied, 67. She brought them out and put them away, carefully wrapped in tissue paper. Had she used the necklaces, it would have been quite legitimate, but she was violating the law of use. Her closets were filled with clothes she never wore, and the jewels which never saw the light. The woman's arms were gradually becoming paralyzed from holding on to things, and eventually she was considered incapable of looking after her affairs, and her wealth was handed over to others to manage. So people in ignorance of the law bring about their own destruction. All disease, all unhappiness come from the violation of the law of love. Our boomerangs of hate, resentment, and criticism come back laden with sickness and sorrow. Love seems almost a lost art, but the person with the knowledge of spiritual law knows it must be regained. For example, I had a student who came to me month after month to clean her consciousness of resentment. After a while, she arrived at the point where she resented only one woman, but that one woman kept her busy. Little by little, she became poised and harmonious, and one day, all resentment was wiped out. She came in radiant and exclaimed, "You can't understand how I feel. The woman said something to me, and instead of being furious, I was loving and kind, and she apologized and was perfectly lovely to me. No one can understand the marvelous lightness I feel within." Love and goodwill are invaluable in business. For example, a woman came to me complaining of her employer. She said she was cold and critical and knew she did not want her in the position. "Well," I replied, "salute the divinity in the woman and send her love." She said, "I can't. She's a marble woman." I answered, "You remember the story of the sculptor who asked for a certain piece of marble? He was asked why he wanted it, and he replied, because there is an angel in the marble, and out of it he produced a wonderful work of art. She said, "Very well, I'll try it." A week later she came back and said, "I did what you told me to do, and now the woman is very kind and took me out for lunch." People are sometimes filled with remorse for having done someone an unkindness, perhaps years ago. If the wrong cannot be righted, its effect can be neutralized by doing someone a kindness in the present. This one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto things where are before. Sorrow, regret, and remorse tear down the cells of the body and poison the atmosphere of the individual. A woman said to me in deep sorrow, "Treat me to be happy and joyous, for my sorrow makes me so irritable with members of my family that I keep making more calmer." I was asked to treat a woman who was mourning for her daughter. I denied all belief in loss and separation and affirmed that the universe was the woman's joy, love, and peace. The woman gained her poise at once, but sent word by her son not to treat me longer, because she was so happy. It wasn't respectable. So mortal mind loves to hang on to its griefs and regrets. I knew a woman who went about bragging of her troubles, so of course she always had something to brag about. The old idea was if a woman who did not worry about her children, she was not a good mother. Now we know that mother fear is responsible for many of the diseases and accidents which come into the lives of children. For fear pictures vividly the disease or situation feared, and these pictures objectify if not neutralized. Happy is a mother who can say sincerely that she puts her child in the universe's hands and knows, therefore, that they are divinely protected. For example, a woman awoke suddenly in the night feeling her brother was in great danger. Instead of giving in to her fears, she commenced making statements of truth, saying, "We are a perfect idea in divine mind and are always in the right place. Therefore my brother is in his right place and is divinely protected." The next day she had found that her brother had been in close proximity to an explosion in a mine, but had miraculously escaped. So we are each other's keeper, in thought, and every person should know that the thing they love dwells in the secret place of the Most High and abides under the shadow of the universe. Chapter 8. Intuition or Guidance. There is nothing too great of accomplishment for the person who knows the power of their words and who follows their intuitive leads. By their words, they start in action, and unseen forces can rebuild their body or remold their affairs. It is therefore of the utmost importance to choose the right words, and the student carefully selects the affirmation they wish to catapult into the visible. We know that the universe is our supply, that there is a supply for every demand, and that our spoken word releases this supply. Ask and you shall receive. People, however, must make the first move. I have often been asked just how to make a demonstration. I reply, speak the word, and then do not do anything until you get a definite lead. Demand the lead, saying, "Infinite Spirit, reveal to me the way. Let me know if there is anything for me to do." The answer will come through intuition or hunch, a chance remark from someone, or a passage in a book. The answers are sometimes quite startling in their exactness. For example, a woman desired a large sum of money. She spoke the words, "Universe, open the way for my immediate supply. Let all that is mine by divine right now reach me in great avalanches of abundance." Then she added, "Give me a definite lead and let me know if there is anything for me to do." The thought came quickly. Give a certain friend who had helped her spiritually $100. She told her friend, who said, "Wait and get another lead before giving it." So she waited, and that day met a woman who said to her, "I gave someone $1 today. It was just as much for me as it would be for you to give someone 100. This was indeed an unmistakable lead, so she knew she was right in giving the $100. It was a gift which proved a great investment, for shortly after that a large sum of money came to her in a remarkable way. Giving opens the way for receiving. In order to create activity in finances, one should give. Tithing, or giving 1/10 of one's income, is an old Jewish custom and is sure to bring increase. Many of the richest people in this country have been tithers, and I have never known it to fail as an investment. The 10th part goes forth and returns blessed and multiplied, but the gift or tithe must be given with love and cheerfulness. Bills should be paid cheerfully. All money should be sent forth fearlessly and with a blessing. This attitude of mind makes us the master of money. It is ours to obey, and our words then open vast reservoirs of wealth. It is us ourselves who limit our supply by our limited vision. Sometimes the student has a great realization of wealth but is afraid to act. The vision and action must go hand in hand, as in the case of the man who brought the fur-lined coat. A woman came to me asking me to speak the word for a position. So I demanded, "Universe, open the way for this woman's right position." Never ask just for a position. Ask for the right position. The place already planned in divine mind, as it is the only one that will give satisfaction. I then gave thanks that she had already received and that it would manifest quickly. Very soon she had 3 positions offered her, 2 in New York and 1 in Palm Beach, and she did not know which one to choose. I said ask for a definite lead. The time was almost up and she was still undecided. When one day she telephoned, "When I woke up this morning, I could smell Palm Beach." She had been there before and knew its balmy fragrance. I replied, "Well, if you can smell Palm Beach from here, it is certainly your lead." She accepted the position, and it proved a great success. Often one's leads come at an unexpected time. One day I was walking down the street when I suddenly felt a strong urge to go to a certain bakery, a block or 2 away. The reasoning mind resisted, arguing, "There is nothing there that you want." However, I learned not to reason. So I went to the bakery, looked at everything, and there was certainly nothing there that I wanted. But coming out, I encountered a woman I had thought of often, and who was in great need of the help which I could give her. So often one goes for one thing and finds another. Intuition is a spiritual faculty and does not explain, but simply points the way. A person often receives a lead during a treatment. The idea that comes may seem quite irrelevant, but some of the universe's leadings are mysterious. In class one day I was treating that one individual would receive a definite lead. A woman came to me afterwards and said, "While you were treating, I got the hunch to take my furniture out of storage and get an apartment." The woman had come to be treated for health. I told her I knew in getting a home of her own, her health would improve. And I added, "I believe your trouble, which is congestion, has come from having things stored away. Congestion of things causes congestion in the body. You have violated the law of use, and your body is paying the penalty." So I gave thanks that divine order was established in her mind, body, and affairs. People little dream of how their affairs react on the body. There is a mental correspondence for every disease. A person might receive instantaneous healing through the realization that their body, being a perfect idea in the universe mind, and therefore whole and complete. But if they continue destructive thinking, hoarding, hating, fearing, condemning, the disease will return. So one's soul or subconscious mind must be washed whiter than snow for permanent healing, and the metaphysician is always delving deep for the correspondence. Many people have attracted disease and unhappiness through condemnation of others. What they condemn or judge in others, they attract to themselves. For example, a friend came to me in anger and distress because her husband had deserted her for another woman. She condemned the other woman and said continually, she knew he was a married man and had no right to accept his attentions. I replied, "Stop condemning the woman, bless her, and be through with the situation. Otherwise you are attracting the same thing to yourself." She was deaf to my words, and a year or 2 later became deeply interested in a married man herself. We pick up a live wire whenever we criticize or condemn, and they expect a shock. Indecision is a stumbling block in many a pathway. In order to overcome it, make the statement repeatedly, "I am always under direct inspiration. I make the right decisions quickly." These words impress the subconscious, and soon we find ourselves awake and alert, making the right moves without hesitation. I have found it destructive to look to the psychic plane for guidance, as it is the plane of many minds and not the one mind. As we open our mind to subjectivity, we become a target for destructive forces. The psychic plane is the result of our mortal thought and is on the plane of opposites. They may receive either good or bad messages. The science of numbers and the reading of horoscopes keeps us down on the mental or mortal plane, for they deal only with the karmic path. I know of a man who should have been dead years ago according to his horoscope, but he is alive and a leader of one of the biggest movements in this country for the uplift of humanity. It takes a very strong mind to neutralize a prophecy of fear. The student should declare, "Every false prophecy shall come to naught. Every plan the universe has not planned shall be dissolved and dissipated. The divine idea now comes to pass." However, if any good message has ever been given one, of coming of happiness or wealth, harbor and expect it, and it will manifest sooner or later through the law of expectancy. Our will should be used to back the universal will. I will that the will of the universe be done. It is the universe's will to give every person every righteous desire of their heart, and our will should be used to hold the perfect vision without wavering. It is indeed often an effort of the will to leave the trappings of mortal thinking. It is so much easier for the average person to have fear than faith, so faith is an effort of the will. As we become spiritually awakened, we recognize that any external inharmony is the correspondence of mental inharmony. If we stumble or fall, we may know we are stumbling or falling in consciousness. One day, a student was walking along the street condemning someone in her thoughts. She was saying mentally, "That woman is the most disagreeable woman on earth," when suddenly 3 Boy Scouts rushed around the corner and almost knocked her over. She did not condemn the Boy Scouts, but immediately called on the law of forgiveness and saluted the divinity in the woman. Wisdom's ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. When one has made their demands upon the universe, they must be ready for surprises. Everything may seem to be going wrong when in reality it is going right. For example, a woman who was told that there was no loss in divine mind, therefore she could not lose anything which belonged to her. Anything lost would be returned, or she would receive its equivalent. Several years previously, she had lost $2,000. She had loaned the money to a relative during her lifetime, but the relative had died, leaving no mention of it in her will. The woman was resentful and angry, and as she had no written statement of the transaction, she never received the money. So she determined to deny the loss and collect the $2,000 from the Bank of the Universe. She had to begin by forgiving the woman, as resentment and unforgiveness closes the doors of this wonderful bank. She made this statement, "I deny loss. There is no loss in universal mind. Therefore I cannot lose the $2,000 which belong to me by divine right. As one door shuts, another door opens." She was living in an apartment house which was for sale, and in the lease was a clause stating that if the house was sold, the tenants would be required to move out within 90 days. Suddenly, the landlord broke the leases and raised the rent. Again, injustice was on her pathway, but this time she was undisturbed. She blessed the landlord and said, "As the rent has been raised, it means that I'll be that much richer, for the universe is my supply." New leases were made out for the advance rent, but by some divine mistake the 90 days clause had been forgotten. Soon afterward, the landlord had an opportunity to sell the house. On account of the mistake in the new leases, the tenants held possession for another year. The agent offered each tenant $200 if they would vacate. Several families moved, 3 remained, including the woman. A month or 2 passed, and the agent again appeared. This time he said to the woman, "Will you break your lease for the sum of $1,500? It flashed upon her, "Here comes the $2,000. She remembered having said to friends in the house, "We will act together if anything more is said about leaving." So her lead was to consult her friends. These friends said, "Well, if they have offered you $1,500, they will certainly give you $2,000. So she received a check for $2,000 for giving up the apartment. It was certainly a remarkable working of the law, and the apparent injustice was merely opening the way for her demonstration. It proved that there is no loss, and when we take our spiritual stand, we collect all that is ours from this great reservoir of good. These adverse thoughts alone rob people, for no person gives to themselves but themselves, and no person takes away from themselves but themselves. We are here to prove the universe and to bear witness to the truth, and we can only prove the universe by bringing plenty out of lack and justice out of injustice. Chapter 9. Perfect Self-Expression, or the Divine Design. There is for each person perfect self-expression. There is a place which they are to fill, and no one else can fill. Something which they are to do, which no one else can do. It is their destiny. This achievement is held as the perfect idea in universal mind, awaiting a recognition. As the imaging faculty is a creative faculty, it is necessary for us to see the idea before it can manifest. So our highest demand is for the divine design of our life. We may not have the faintest conception of what it is, for there is possibly some marvelous talent hidden deep within them. Our demand should be, Infinite Spirit, open the way for the divine design of my life to manifest. Let the genius within me now be released. Let me see clearly the perfect plan. The perfect plan includes health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. This is the square of life which brings perfect happiness. When one has made this demand, they may find great changes taking place in their life. for nearly every person has wandered far from the divine design. I know in one woman's case it was as though a cyclone had struck her affairs, but readjustments came quickly, and new and wonderful conditions took the place of old ones. Perfect self-expression will never be labour, but of such absorbing interest that it will seem almost like play. The student knows, also, as we come into the world financed by the universe, the supply needed for our perfect self-expression will be at hand. Many a genius has struggled for years with the problem of supply, when their spoken word and faith would have released quickly the necessary funds. For example, after the class one day, a man came to me and handed me a cent. He said, "I have just 7 cents in the world, and I'm going to give you 1, for I have faith in the power of your spoken word, and I want you to speak the word for my perfect self-expression and prosperity." I spoke the word and did not see him again until a year later. He came in one day, successful and happy, with a roll of bills in his pockets. He said, "Immediately after you spoke the word, I had a position offered me in a distant city, and am now demonstrating health, happiness, and supply." One's perfect self-expression may be in becoming a perfect partner, a perfect parent, a perfect CEO of the family, and not necessarily in having a public career. Demand definite leads, and the way will be made easy and successful. One should not visualize or force a mental picture. When we demand the divine design to come into our conscious mind, we will receive flashes of inspiration and begin to see ourselves making some great accomplishment. This is the picture or idea we must hold without wavering. The thing we seek is seeking us. The telephone was seeking Bell. Parents should never force careers and professions upon their children. With a knowledge of spiritual truth, the universal plan could be spoken for early in childhood or prenatally. A prenatal treatment should be, let the universe in this child have perfect expression. Let the universal divine of their mind, body, and affairs be made manifest throughout their life, throughout eternity. The universe's will be done, not ours. The universe's pattern, not our pattern, is the command. To release one's soul or subconscious mind from the bondage of mortal thought, so one must be careful that they are not the wicked and slothful servant who buried their talent. There is a terrible penalty to be paid for not using one's ability. Often fear stands between us and our perfect self-expression. Stage fright has hampered many a genius. This may be overcome by the spoken word or treatment. The individual then loses all self-consciousness and feels simply that they are a channel for infinite intelligence to express itself through them. They are under direct inspiration, fearless and confident, for they feel that it is the universe within them who does the work. A young boy came to me, often to my class with his mother. He asked me to speak the word for his coming examinations at school. I told him to make the statement, "I am one with the universe. I know everything I should know on this subject." He had an excellent knowledge of history, but was not sure of his math. I saw him afterwards, and he said, "I spoke the word for my math and passed with the highest honours, but thought I could depend on myself for history and got a very poor mark." We often receive a setback when we are too sure of ourselves, which means we are trusting to our personality and not the universe within. Another one of my students gave me an example of this. She took an extended trip abroad one summer, visiting many countries, was ignorant of the languages. She was calling for guidance and protection every minute, and her affairs went smoothly and miraculously. Her luggage was never delayed nor lost. Accommodations were always ready for her at the best hotels, and she had perfect service wherever she went. She returned to New York, knowing the language. She felt the universe was no longer necessary, so looked after her affairs in an ordinary manner. Everything went wrong. Her bags got delayed amid inharmony and confusion. The student must form the habit of practicing the presence of the universe every minute. In all ways, acknowledge the universe. Nothing is too small or too great. Sometimes an insignificant incident may be the turning point in a person's life. Robert Fulton, watching some boiling water simmering in a tea kettle, saw a steamboat. I have seen a student often keep back their demonstration through resistance or pointing the way. They pin their faith to one channel only and dictate just the way they desire the manifestation to come, which brings things to a standstill. My way, not your way, is the command of infinite intelligence. Like all power, be it steam or electricity. It must have a non-resistant engine or instrument to work through, and we are that engine or instrument. Over and over again, we are told to stand still and be non-resistant. We see this in the incidents of the $2,000 coming to the woman through the landlord when she became non-resistant and undisturbed, and the woman who won the man's love after all suffering had ceased. The student's goal is poise. Poise is power, for it gives the universe power a chance to rush through us, to will and to do its good pleasure. Poised, we think clearly and make right decisions quickly. We never miss a trick. Anger blurs the visions, poisons the blood, is the root of many diseases, and causes wrong decision leading to failure. It has been named one of the worst sins, as its reaction is so harmful. The student learns that in metaphysics, sin has a much broader meaning than in the old teaching. Whatever is not of faith is sin. We find that fear and worry are deadly sins. They are inverted faith, and through distorted mental pictures bring to pass the thing we fear. Our work is to drive out these enemies from the subconscious mind. When we are fearless, we are finished. So as we read in the previous chapters, we can only vanquish fear by walking up to the thing we are afraid of. For example, a woman who asked a friend to deliver a message to another friend. The woman feared to give the message, as the reasoning said, "Don't get mixed up in this affair. Don't give that message." She was troubled in spirit, for she had given her promise. At last she was determined to walk up to the lion and call on the law of universal protection. She met the friend to whom she was to deliver the message. She opened her mouth to speak it, when her friend said, "So-and-so has left town." This made it unnecessary to give the message, as the situation depended upon the person being in town. As she was willing to do it, she was not obliged to, as she did not fear. The situation vanished. The student often delays their demonstration through a belief in incompletion. We should make this statement: in divine mind, there is only completion. Therefore, my demonstration is completed. My perfect work, my perfect home, my perfect health. Whatever we demand are perfect ideas registered in universal mind and must manifest under grace in a perfect way. We give thanks we have already received on the invisible and make active preparation for receiving on the visible. One of my students was in need of a financial demonstration. She came to me and asked why it was not completed. I replied, perhaps you are in the habit of leaving things unfinished, and the subconscious has gotten into the habit of not completing. As the without, so the within. I'll go home and finish something I commenced weeks ago, and I know it will be symbolic of my demonstration. She sewed assiduously, and the article was soon completed. Shortly after, the money came in a most curious manner. Her husband was paid his salary twice that month. He told the people of their mistake, and they sent word to keep it. When we ask, believing, we must receive, for the universe creates its own channels. I have been sometimes asked, suppose one has several talents, how do we know which one to choose? Demand to be shown definitely. Say, universe, give me a definite lead. Reveal to me my perfect self-expression. Show me which talent I am to make use of now. I have known people to suddenly enter a new line of work and be fully equipped with little or no training. So make the statement, I am fully equipped for the universal plan of my life, and be fearless in grasping opportunities. Some people are cheerful givers, but bad receivers. They refuse gifts through pride or some negative reason, thereby blocking their channels, and invariably find themselves eventually with very little or nothing. For example, a woman who had given away a great deal of money had a gift offered her of several $1,000s. She refused to take it, saying she didn't need it. Shortly after that, her finances were tied up, and she found herself in debt for that amount. We should receive gracefully, as freely we have given. Freely we will receive. There is always the perfect balance of giving and receiving, and though we should give without thinking of returns, we violate the law if we do not accept the returns which come to us. For all gifts are from the universe. We are merely the channel. A thought of lack should never be held over the giver. For example, when the man gave the 1 cent, I did not say, "Poor man, he cannot afford to give me that." I saw him rich and prosperous with his supply pouring in. It was this thought which brought it. If one has been a bad receiver, they must become a good one, and take even a postage stamp if it is given to them, and open up their channels for receiving. I have often been asked why one person is born rich and healthy, and another poor and sick. Where there is such an effect, there is always a cause. There is no such thing as chance. This question is answered through the law of reincarnation. We go through many births and deaths until we know the truth which sets us free. We are drawn back to the earth plane through unsatisfied desire to pay our karmic debts or to fulfill our destiny. The person born rich and healthy has had pictures in their subconscious mind in their past life of health and riches, and the poor and sick person of disease and poverty. We manifest on any plane the sum total of our subconscious beliefs. However, birth and death are people-made laws, for the wages of sin is death. The Adamic fall in consciousness through the belief in two powers, the real person, spiritual person, is birthless and deathless. They were never born and have never died. As we were in the beginning, we are now and ever shall be. So through the truth we are set free from the law of karma, sin and death, and manifest the person made in the universe's image and likeness. Our freedom comes through fulfilling our destiny, bringing into manifestation the universal design of our life. Chapter 10. Denials and Affirmations. All the good that is to be made manifest in our life is already an accomplished fact in the universal mind, and is released through our recognition or spoken word. So we must be careful to decree that only the universe's idea be made manifest, for often we decree through our idle words failure or misfortune. It is therefore of the utmost importance to word one's demands correctly, as stated in a previous chapter. If one desires a home, friend, position, or any other good thing, make the demand for the divine selection. For example, universe, open the way for my right home, my right friend, my right position. I give thanks it now manifests under grace in a perfect way. The latter part of the statement is most important. For example, I knew a woman who demanded $1,000. Her daughter was injured and they received $1,000 indemnity. So it did not come in a perfect way. The demand should have been worded in this way. Universe, I give thanks that the $1,000 which is mine by divine right is now released and reaches me under grace in a perfect way. As one grows in financial consciousness, we should demand that the enormous sums of money which are ours by divine right reach us under grace and in perfect ways. It is impossible for us to release more than we think is possible, for one is bound by the limited expectancies of the subconscious. We must enlarge our expectancies in order to receive in a large way. We so often limit ourselves in our demands. For example, a student made the demand for $600. By a certain date, he did not receive it, but heard afterwards that he came very near receiving $1,000, but he was just given $600 as a result of the spoken word. Wealth is a matter of consciousness. The French have a legend giving an example of this. A poor man was walking a dog along a road when he met a traveller, who stopped him and said, "My good friend, I see you are poor. Take this gold nugget, sell it. You will be rich all your days." The man was overjoyed at his good fortune and took the nugget home. He immediately found work and became so prosperous that he did not sell the nugget. Years passed, and he became a very rich man. One day he met a poor man on the road. He stopped him and said, "My good friend, I will give you this gold nugget, which if you sell will make you rich for life." The medicine took the nugget, had it valued, and found it was only brass. So we see, the first man became rich through feeling rich, thinking the nugget was gold. Every person has within themselves a gold nugget. It is their consciousness of gold, of opulence, which brings riches into their life. In making their demands, we begin at journey's end. That is, we declare we have already received. Continually affirming establishes the belief in the subconscious. It would not be necessary to make an affirmation more than once if one had perfect faith. One should not plead or supplicate, but give thanks repeatedly that they have received. The desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. This rejoicing, which is yet in the desert state of consciousness, opens the way for release. The Lord's Prayer is in the form of command and demand. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, and ends in praise. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Concerning the works of my hands, command ye me. So prayer is command and demand, praise and thanksgiving. The student's work is in making themselves believe that with the universe all things are possible. This is easy enough to state in the abstract, but a little more difficult when confronted with a problem. For example, it was necessary for a woman to demonstrate a large sum of money within a stated time. She knew she must do something to get a realization, for realization is manifestation, and she demanded a lead. She was walking through a department store when she saw a very beautiful pink enamel paper cutter. She felt the pull towards it. The thought came, I haven't had a paper cutter good enough to open letters containing large checks. So she brought the paper cutter, which the reasoning mind would have called an extravagance. When she held it in her hand, she had a flash of a picture of herself opening an envelope containing a large check, and in a few weeks she received the money. The pink paper cutter was her bridge of active faith. Many stories are told of the power of the subconscious when directed in faith. For example, a man was spending the night in a farmhouse. The windows of the room had been nailed down, and in the middle of the night he felt suffocated and made his way in the dark to the window. He could not open it, so he smashed the pane with his fist, drew in draughts of fine fresh air, and had a wonderful night's sleep. The next morning he found he had smashed the glass of a bookcase, and the window had remained closed during the whole night. He had supplied himself with oxygen, simply by his thought of oxygen. When a student starts out to demonstrate, they should never turn back. A student once made this wonderful statement, when I ask the universe for anything, I put down my foot and I, universe, I'll take nothing less than I've asked for, but more. So we should never compromise. Having done all, stand. This is sometimes the most difficult time of demonstrating. The temptation comes to give up, to turn back, to compromise. Demonstrations often come at the 11th hour because people then let go. That is, stop reasoning, and the universe has a chance to work. Man's dreary desires are answered drearily, and his impatient desires long delayed or violently fulfilled. For example, a woman asked me why it was she was constantly losing or breaking her glasses. We found she often said to herself and others with frustration, I wish I could get rid of my glasses. So her impatient desire was violently fulfilled. What she should have demanded was perfect eyesight, but what she registered in the subconscious was simply the impatient desire to be rid of her glasses, so they were continually being broken or lost. 2 attitudes of mind cause loss. Depreciation, as in the case of the woman who did not appreciate her husband, or fear of loss, which makes a picture of loss in the subconscious. When a student is able to let go of their problem, cast the burden, they will have instantaneous manifestation. For example, a woman was out during a very stormy day, and her umbrella was blown inside out. She was about to make a call on someone with whom she'd never met, and she did not wish to make her first appearance with a dilapidated umbrella. She could not throw it away, as it did not belong to her. So in desperation she exclaimed, Universe, will you take charge of this umbrella? I don't know what to do. A moment later, a voice behind her said, Lady, do you want your umbrella mended? There stood an umbrella mender. She replied, Indeed I do. The man mended the umbrella while she went into the house to pay her call, and when she returned, she had a good umbrella. So there is always an umbrella mender at hand on our pathway when one puts the umbrella or situation in the universe's hands. One should always follow a denial with an affirmation. For example, I was called on the phone late one night to treat a man whom I'd never seen. He was apparently very ill. I made the statement, I deny this appearance of disease. It is unreal, therefore cannot register in this consciousness. This man is a perfect idea in universal mind, pure substance expressing perfection. There is no time or space in universal mind. Therefore the world reaches instantly in its destination and does not return void. I have treated patients in Europe and have found that the result was instantaneous. I am asked so often the difference between visualizing and visioning. Visualizing is a mental process governed by the reasoning or conscious mind. Visioning is a spiritual process governed by intuition or the superconscious mind. The student should train their mind to receive these flashes of inspiration and work out the universe-given pictures through definite leads. When a person can say, "I desire only that which the universe desires for me," their new set of blueprints are given them by the master architect, the universe within. The universe's plan for each person transcends the limitation of the reasoning mind and is always the square of life, containing health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. Many a person is building for themselves in imagination a bungalow when they should be building a palace. If a student tries to force a demonstration through the reasoning mind, they bring it to a standstill. One should act only through intuition or definite leads. I have seen the law work in the most astonishing manner. For example, a student stated that it was necessary for her to have $100 for the following day. It was a debt of vital importance which had to be met. I spoke the word, declaring the universe was never too late, and that the supply was at hand. That evening she phoned me of the miracle. She said that the thought came to her to go to a safe deposit box at the bank to examine some papers. She looked over the papers, and at the bottom of the box was a new $100 bill. She was astounded, and said she knew she had never put it there, for she had gone and seen the papers many times. People will reach the stage where their word is made flesh, or materialized instantly. The fields ripe with the harvest will manifest immediately, as in all the miracles of the universe. Using the power of the universe raises the student into the fourth dimension, where they are freed from all astral and psychic influences, and they become unconditioned and absolute, as the universe itself is unconditional and absolute. The universe within is our own fourth dimensional self, the person made in the universe's image and likeness. This is the self which has never failed, never known sickness or sorrow, was never born, and has never died. It is the resurrection and the life of each person. We should make an art of thinking. The master thinker is an artist and is careful to paint only the universal designs upon the canvas of their mind, and they paint these pictures with masterly strokes of power and decision, having perfect faith that there is no power to mar their perfection, and that they shall manifest in their life the ideal made real. All power is given us, through right thinking, to bring our heaven upon earth, and this is the goal of the game of life. The simple rules of fearless faith, non-resistance, and love. May each reader now be free from that thing which has held you in bondage through the ages, standing between you and your own, and know the truth which makes you free, free to fulfill your destiny, to bring into manifestation the universal design of your life, health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. May you be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Denials and affirmations. For prosperity. The universe is my unfailing supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways. I give thanks that the millions of dollars which are mine by divine right now pour in and pile up under grace and in perfect ways. All financial obligations are now wiped out, under grace, in a miraculous way. All is squared. I send forth love and forgiveness. Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate supply. Let all that is mine by divine right now reach me in great avalanches of abundance. Give me a definite lead, and let me know if there is anything for me to do. For right conditions. Every plan the universe has not planned shall be dissolved and dissipated, and the divine idea now comes to pass. Divine love now dissolves and dissipates every wrong condition in my mind, body, and affairs. Divine love is the most powerful chemical in the universe, and dissolves everything which is not of itself. Only that which is true of the universe is true of me, as we are one. The universe's will be done this day. Today is a day of completion. I give thanks for this perfect day. Miracle shall follow miracle, and wonders shall never cease. For right decisions. I am always under direct inspiration. I make right decisions quickly. For faith. As I am one with the universe, I am one with my good, for the universe is both the giver and the gift. I cannot separate the giver from the gift. The universe's ways are ingenious. Its methods are sure. For health, divine love floods my consciousness with health, and every cell in my body is filled with light. I am a spiritual being. My body is made perfect exactly as the universe intended. The light of the universe now streams through every cell. I give thanks for my radiant health. For the eyesight, my eyes are the universe's eyes. I see with the eyes of spirit. I see clearly the open way. There are no obstacles on my pathway. I see clearly the perfect plan. For guidance, I am divinely sensitive to my intuitive leads and give instant obedience to the universe's will. For the hearing, my ears are the universe's ears. I hear with the ears of spirit. I am non-resistant and am willing to be led. I hear glad tidings of great joy. For right work, I have a perfect work in a perfect way. I give a perfect service for perfect pay. Infinite Spirit, give me a definite lead. Reveal to me my perfect self-expression. Show me which talent I am to make use of now. I live in a world of internal joy and absorbing interests. For freedom from all bondage, I cast this burden on the universe within, and I go free. Prenatal treatment. Let the universe in this child have perfect expression. Let the divine design of their mind, body, and affairs be made manifest throughout their life, throughout eternity. The universe's will be done, not ours. The universe's pattern, not our pattern, is the command. For resetting the record, I now smash and demolish, by my spoken word, every untrue record in my subconscious mind. They shall return to the dust heap of their native nothingness, for they come from my own vain imaginings. I now make perfect records through spirit within, the records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. Here are some others that may click with you. I call forth my highest self as a friend and parent. May the universe speak through me so that I fulfill its role divinely designed for me in all our relationships. May I be a beacon of love, forgiveness, and abundance, under grace and in perfect ways. I only gain energy and feel invigorated with clarity and inspiration, always being guided by divine design. I am allowed to have an overflow of money. I lovingly accept the huge amounts from the universe that are mine by divine right. I am enough, and I have more than enough, under grace and in perfect ways. Chapter 11, Game of Life Steps. Flossie's philosophy, simply put, is that we can have all that we desire. We just need to ask and prepare for it in the absolute belief that what we want is already ours. However, this can be easier said than done. We must ask the right way, remove resistance, be grateful, and align with the universe's will instead of just our own. I have put together what I perceive are all the encompassing steps that she has outlined to cover all the bases to manifest your dreams. I also added in a couple of extra ideas, such as meditation, as well as an all-encompassing prayer that you might like to use. I have taken many clients through these steps, and most of them have manifested much of what they have desired for their wealth, health, love, and perfect self-expression. Step 1. Affirm it. Connect with the universe's energy within you and speak the word in a way that you absolutely believe to be true, declaring that you have already received. Be sure to choose only words that bring a flash of fulfillment of the demand in your mind. Some examples. I am so grateful I found my soulmate. I love living in my dream home. It feels amazing to have complete financial freedom. I love being fit and healthy. It is thrilling to be earning my living doing what I love. What is your affirmation? Step 2. Ask for the divine plan. Ask for the universe's will and for what is yours by divine right only. And when doing so, always ask that the perfect plan unfold, under grace and in perfect ways. For example, I ask for your divine plan for my right health and for what is mine by divine right only, under grace and in perfect ways. Ask now for your divine plan. Step 3. Demand the lead. Demand the lead, saying, Universe, reveal to me the way. Let me know if there is anything for me to do. You do not need to know the how and must let go of that and let the universe lead the way for you. Take a minute to connect to the universe and listen to your intuition. For example, Universe, reveal to me the way and give me a definite lead, letting me know if there is anything for me to receive my perfect abundance. Demand your lead. Step 4. Accept that it has already happened. Connect with feeling the vibration of having already received. It has happened. What do you feel? You really have to feel it to receive it. Some examples of feelings might be relieved, happy, fulfilled, grateful. Your dream has manifested. How do you feel? Step 5. Give thanks and praise. Give thanks and rejoice that your desire has already manifested. What are you grateful for now that your dream has come true? Step 6. Take action. Take action as if your dream has come true. What actions will help you to connect with the feeling of having and also prepare you to receive it? It might help to think about what you're going to do and give. The coat made him feel so rich, it linked him with success and prosperity, from page 39. What actions are you inspired by the universe to take that show your active faith? Step 7. Remove resistance. Non-resistance and faith are paramount to receiving. So if you are wavering in your belief or feel resistance, you can cast the burden of lack or fear or resentment onto the universe, letting the universe remove all your doubts, fears, resentments, guilt, anger, shame, and anxiety. I cast this burden of, insert whatever it is, on the universe within, and I go free to be loving, abundant, harmonious, and happy. If it is a resentment of another that is causing your resistance, you can make the statement below over and over and over, sometimes for hours at a time, silently or audibly, with quietness but determination. Salute the divinity in this person and say, I see your divine self only. I see you as the universe sees you, perfect, whole, and complete. I would also invite you to use meditation daily as a way to connect with the universe and both remove resistance and receive inspiration. Do you have any burdens to cast to the universe? Step 8. Repeat and giving. You would only need to make an affirmation once if you had perfect faith. However, most of us will need to continually affirm so that the belief is established in our subconscious. As you move forward, be aware of what you are sending out. Make sure that your words, thoughts, and actions be that of blessings, love, and goodwill to others. As it is giving, Flossie mentions tithing on page 59, that opens the way for you to receive. As Flossie says, the gift or tithe must be given with love and cheerfulness. Bills should be paid cheerfully, and all money sent forth fearlessly and with a blessing. What was your affirmation again? Any inspired by the universe actions of giving that you'd like to take? Game of Life Prayer. This prayer addresses the steps that I have outlined and is another great way to affirm and call forth that which you desire. You might want to do the steps and then use this prayer as a way to affirm it all daily for yourself. Dear Universe, open the way for your divine plan to unfold under grace and in perfect ways for my right health, perfect abundance, perfect body, right home, right family, right relationship, whatever you would like to manifest, put in here. I ask for your will and for what is mine by divine right only. Reveal to me the way and give me a definite lead, letting me know if there is anything for me to do. I cast this burden of fear, lack, doubt, resentment, guilt, anger, shame, or anxiety, and I go free to be loving, abundant, harmonious, and happy. I give thanks that I have now received. Put in here what you are manifesting and feel already having it, that it was completed so quickly and in the best possible way for all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Once you have completed this prayer, go forth affirming, feeling, believing, giving thanks, and taking inspired action as if you have already received, and have fun playing the game of life.